Hello, everyone. Welcome to your team news ahead of Gameweek 15. Hopefully, you've all held off on those transfers and you're waiting for some wisdom from myself and the self-appointed Barry White of team news, as he said to me at the start of this stream. How are you, Neil?
Yeah, that's not my prowess with women. That's just my my voice was a bit husky.
It was
It's a bit gravelly at the moment. Yeah, and I'm getting bigger as well in the middle age. So two of the three things I haven't got is womanizing skills yet, but I'll work on it.
You're working on it for next time. Excellent. Loads to cover today. We've got all 20 teams and some news from all of those. We've obviously got the big news from Haaland. Has he been training? I'm sure a lot of you have seen the pictures and kind of know, but we will be able to clarify on that. Also, there was some rumours of the sniffles for a certain Newcastle striker. Yeah. We can cover that too and a lot more. So let's get straight into it with the first game of the weekend. There's no early kickoff. It's all at 3 o'clock. So your deadline's at 2 p.m. Let's start with Leeds versus Bournemouth relegation battle. What have we got from the home side?
I don't think there's much new. Sinisterra's still out and probably will be out until after the World Cup now. He joins Dallas and Forshaw on the sidelines. Archie Gray, who's a rookie, is just back in individual training. But apart from that, they're doing all right. So there was a lot of players flagged before Gameweek 14, and they all, bar Sinisterra, they all came back. The likes of Cooper and Gelhardt, Rodrigo. There's loads of them flagged, but they all came through. Adams as well. So it could be unchanged again with Sinisterra out. Somerville, of course, 4.4 million midfielder who scored in back-to-back game weeks now. There's a 2-week pun for you. So it could be him. I guess for Marsh, it's the same week-to-week question of which one of Rodrigo or Bamford starts. But whoever, as I said in the team news tab, whoever gets a nod, it'll be shared game time. They always seem to get around about 50 to 60 minutes, whoever starts, and then the other player comes off the bench.
1:30 deadline. Apologies, not 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's not back in, just show my age, going back all the years. It was a nice simple hour before. How about Bournemouth, their opponents? Pretty quick update from them. I think no news to report.
Nothing new. Neto, Kelly and Brooks are going to be other side of the World Cup, looks like.
Yep, excellent. Next, okay, straight into the big one. Again, no clickbait. This week, it's Man City at home to Fulham. There's obviously quite a lot of questions around Haaland, quite a lot of questions around Foden as well. Yep. I saw Pep wasn't too happy when he was asked why he's been benched in the last bit. Gave a bit of a bristly answer. And even Rigg Jr. has had his say on Pep as well, which I enjoyed reading about.
Yeah, I don't know if people have seen me tweet. I was watching a clip of Pep talking about Foden, and my 1-year-old son came in and saw the video, pointed at Pep and went, "Silly man." He's quite right.
So accurate.
like father, like son. Yeah, we've heard from Pep on both players, Haaland and Foden, this afternoon. Haaland, it sounds more positive and looks more positive because we've actually seen him in training as well. And this was yesterday. He was pictured with his teammates. It was a recovery day, I think, for a lot of the players who were involved against, was it Sevilla in midweek they were playing? But Haaland was there, was present. So Pep said today that he's much better. They're going to decide today. The line I liked from this was that he said, we have to decide if he's good for 90 minutes or just less minutes. We will see after training. So that sounds to me like he's going to play some part. I know Pep's no fool, of course. He's been doing this for years and years and years. I'm sure he wouldn't give something away that easily. But that line in combination with seeing Haaland on the training ground does make me feel much more optimistic than I did a week ago. Obviously, for me, he's in no-sell now. I'm not sure if he's a captain yet. I think I'll wait until if there's any early team news leaks. There's no guarantees of that. But with it being the first kick-off time on Saturday after the deadline, there's a chance we could get something. But for me, Haaland would be now a no-sell because you're going to want him in game week 16 at home to Brentford. So unless you got the luxury of swapping him in and out, then I would be a hold for me, regardless of game time. If I find out he's on the bench on Saturday, then I'll still keep him. I just won't hand him the armband. Because we've seen it before, what damage you can do in a space of half an hour. Hat-tricks already this season in that sort of space of time. So looking more positive anyway.
You nailed the lineup last week with City. You had Haaland out the side, didn't you? I think you had Foden in, but we won't mention that.
Yeah, Haaland. Yeah. Let's highlight my the things I got right. Haaland. that was more, having seen him limp, I think, a couple of days before the game, he was visibly hobbling into whatever medical centre he was going into, sort of, 48 hours before kickoff. And there was too much of an unknown going into that fixture. But and we hadn't seen him on the training ground by that point. It's a bit different this week. Elsewhere in the City fitness news, Akanji's fine. He was absent from training earlier this week, and he didn't play against Sevilla, but he's fit according to Pep. Phillips and Walker still out, and Foden, he was had back-to-back benchings in the Premier League, but he has been playing in Europe in between. Pep was asked this by Simon Stone, who I think he holds a particularly level of vitriol for. This was Pep's response, and I'll read it out. He said, Riyad has been on the bench, Jack Grealish has been on the bench, Bernardo has been on the bench, Gundogan's been on the bench, Kevin De Bruyne has been on the bench, everyone. If you say in particular, it's absolutely no issue. I have many players I have to use and I demand the best of them, and this is going to happen in the future. It has always been like that. So he's just pointing out the fact, quite rightly, that other players have been, hitherto regulars, have been benched out of the blue in the past. Perhaps not back-to-back league games. I can't remember the last time that happened with De Bruyne, for example,
and not in the form that Foden was in.
No, well. and even Bernardo as well. I mean, Bernardo, I think at the start of the season on the bench, but that was because he was linked with a move to where was it? Was it Barca?
Probably. Who it was. Everyone was linked to Barca.
Yeah. I mean, you'd think low averages that Foden would be back in for this one, given that he tends to be one of the more regular starters. However, Pep did sort of half suggest that Grealish was being preserved for this match when he took him off at half-time in midweek. So that only leaves one spot, really. And Foden's not that often been playing on the right flank. He has latterly, but traditionally he was more of a left-sided winger with City. But if Grealish is going to start there and one of Haaland or Alvarez to the middle, then that's obviously just one spot for Foden to take. So, again, we're going to be clinging on to the hope for one of these early team news leagues tomorrow, which is not ideal if you're the other side of the world and you're not able to get up for that. But, a little bit of uncertainty about Foden heading into this one.
Yeah. Keep your eyes, everyone, on the team news tab on Fantasy Football Scout, where Neil will be updating that, I imagine, a bit later this afternoon?
Yeah, probably one of the last ones, I think.
Yeah.
See.
They're playing Fulham. Any major news from them?
Yes, actually, yeah. This was yesterday. There was 6 pressers yesterday, and Marco Silva was one of them. He's going to be forced into his 2 changes this weekend. He's kept things very settled of late. Bobby De Cordova-Reid is banned. He's got 5 yellow cards. The more serious is Niskins Cabano, who's one of the wingers. He's going to be out for several months with a ruptured Achilles. So he's out of this one. So possibly Tetty and Harry Wilson coming in. Apart from that, I think it's as you were. Oh no, Kazawa's back as well. He's back in training. So I think that just leaves Cabano and Mana Solomon, who's going to be back in January. They're the 2 longer term ones.
Yep, and I'll just mention again, I mentioned it on a couple of streams now, but Fulham have had the best fixtures over the last 6, and statistically they've been the worst defence, conceding the most chances and the most big chances and the most XG non-penalty. So it's going to be a tough trip for them, I sense, against Man City. So we want to make sure our City players play, because if Foden and Haaland miss out again, that's going to be an absolute nightmare. Okay, let's move over to Forest next. I've got a new logo for Forest because the other one wasn't really working for me. Too transparent. Put a new one in. Let's start with them. One of their many new signings has been ruled out for the season.
I coughed right when you
did.
I'm sorry.
I was hoping we were going to get sexy voice, Neil, straight afterwards.
Oh yes, Bianconi this is, yeah. So we already knew that Richards, Niakate and Colback were out, and Toffolo joined them on the sidelines, I think, a couple of weeks ago with a hamstring problem. They've got a 5th absentee now, and that is Bianconi, who we thought was going to be competition for Williams in pre-season, but it hasn't really transpired. He's going to be out for the season. He's what's he doing? I think is it an ACL?
ACL, yeah.
Yeah, so he's now out until next summer. So that's one of the 22 signings now down for the rest of 22-23. And I don't think there's anything new according to Cooper. Just the aforementioned 4 who are already out.
Yep. And they're playing Brentford. They'll be confident of keeping it clean against them, with Tony obviously ruled out with
Yeah.
suspension. How about elsewhere in the side?
Yeah, not great on the road either, are they, Brentford? Tony out, as you said. Hickey, Strakosha and Janssen are all out until after the World Cup. Matthias Jensen's back. He had a dead leg last weekend, but he's back for this one. And Norgard could feature as well. He's been out for 2 months, an influential midfielder. That should show things up, actually, once he's back fit. He's been on the training ground for a couple of weeks. Not sure if he's going to start or not. Might still be beyond him, but back on the training ground and potentially in the squad this weekend too.
Yep, excellent. Wolves versus my team, Brighton. Next. Yeah, this was I basically know how much injury news there's going to be based on how long the tweet is. And this one was one of the longer tweets for Wolves. So there's a few things to say about them, right?
Yeah, Costa's out for starters. He's beginning a 3-match ban.
Headbutt.
One of those. Sorry?
For a headbutt, of course.
For a headbutt, yeah. Yep. Surprisingly, his first ever Premier League red card, which was
it? I did not know.
A bit of a shock to me. Yeah, I think he's racked up plenty elsewhere, and lots of yellows. But he's going to be out until Gameweek 17 with this suspension. Nunez is 50-50 going to Steve Davis. He came off with a shoulder injury in the draw against Brentford. I think beyond that, it's the same ones who are out. So Chiquinho, Neto, Jimenez as well. No time for him still on Jimenez. He's obviously going to be trying to be fit for the World Cup. I wonder if he will miraculously come to fitness just in time for Mexico's World Cup group opener. That seemed to be the case. And apart from that, Totti Gomez was back in. I think he was back running ahead of Gameweek 14. Wasn't quite fit enough for that, so maybe he could be involved here.
So is that Hwang up top then, with no strikers?
It
available?
Could be, yeah. Hwang's been coming on for Costa during games to, obviously Costa's running out of gas by sort of 50, 60 minute mark. At least he was at first. So it has been Hwang. They've also got, is it Guedes as well? They can play there, albeit not convincingly. And of course, if Nunez is out, then yeah, maybe Moutinho comes in for him as a 10. But I mean, Costa wasn't exactly firing on all cylinders and prolific anyway, but that would make you more confident, especially so of a clean sheet for Brighton.
Yeah.
Q. Neves,
you just know it,
drive.
Yeah, I mean, Hwang, no goals this season. Yeah, Pedence, 2 goals this season.
Yeah,
Guedes,
3-0 Wolves win.
Yeah, Guedes none. I mean, they just haven't got any goals in the team. They have got a 3.9 wing back who's playing, Hugo Lopez, or Bueno as he is on FPL. But other than that, I don't think we're looking too much into Wolves, but we are looking at Brighton after a big win for us against Chelsea. What have we got from De Zerbi?
Yeah, he was first off this morning. I think it's pretty straightforward. Welbeck's back. He missed out last week because of illness. And Colwell's available again. He was ineligible because he's a loanee from Chelsea. So that just leaves, apart from Jakob Moder, who's long-term, Joel Veltman, who was absent in Gameweek 14 with some problems. I think it's his calf. But De Zerbi was quite confident when he's speaking this morning about his availability. He said he's still got to check him in training today. But I think he said he thinks he can play, which is interesting because he did answer a question about Welbeck, saying he's not guaranteed to return to the team even though he's fit because they played so well in his absence. Trossard up top, of course. And then Mitoma coming into that attack. And then with Veltman, of course, his stupid hand played. You can probably tell me more than me, but he had one of his better games for Brighton. With was it Gross starting at right back, I think, last week, and then Lamptey came on.
Yep.
During the second half, and then so Veltman's been a mainstay of that Brighton defence. Do you think he comes straight back in with maybe Gross push forward and Lallana dropping out?
I would have thought so. I mean, I've seen Gross play at right back and right wing back number of times. He kind of does the job. He's kind of weirdly effective in it without having any of the attributes I would associate with a right back or a right wing back. But I think De Zerbi likes to play players in their kind of best position, and Veltman his versatility can play kind of anywhere along there. So he'll come back in. And Estupiñán I really like. I think he's a really good shout for the next two.
Yeah. He's now the content creator's favourite this week, I think, because his chance creation rate is really good. And it's just the start, I think, isn't it? It's just been the security of starts and game time assurances that we haven't had. We probably still don't have them just yet, but he does look good. He's just to give you a little profile of him. His chance creation rate is almost the same as Trippier, and I think better than Cresswell. So it's really, really good. So hopefully he can nail down a spot in the long term, because he looks a prospect again. Another one from Brighton.
Yeah, I mean he's man of the match against Chelsea. Had a shot cleared off the
Yeah.
line as well. So I can't see any way in which he's dropped. He's the kind of player who could drop a 3 out of 10 performance in the next match and then be straight back out. But
Yeah.
I think he's a good punt for 2 weeks. Excellent. Okay, Everton next. They're at home to Leicester. I enjoyed Frank Lampard's press conference. I saw the guy, the reporter, asked him about the set pieces, and I thought he handled it really well. See that? Yeah.
I didn't enjoy it because the feed went down early on. I couldn't get the feedback up. But I've seen that clip since. Some reporter completely spectacularly misquoted a stat, and Lampard called him out on it.
Yeah, it was really good.
Teaming wise, it's really good for Everton. Townsend's the only one who's still out, like long term. So that means Godfrey and Mina's back in training. This probably will come too soon for both of them, this Leicester game, and they wouldn't have started anyway because Cody and Tarkowski have been so good at the back. A line on Nathan Patterson as well from Lampard, who came back into the matchday squad last weekend, emerged from the bench, and now he's ready to start, according to Lampard. It's just whether he deems Koolman droppable for this, just a week after saying his performances had peaked against Crystal Palace. So I don't think he was too bad, Koolman, last week, but Patterson's obviously Lampard's first choice longer term. Just whether he can, he feels like he has to reward one of the long-serving players and key characters in the dressing room with more starts after a pretty consistent run of form in Patterson's absence.
Yeah. Anything else from them? Or
I don't think so, no.
Move on to Leicester then.
Yeah. Leicester, yes. Pereira should be back in January just to add some rotation risk to the fullback departments. Burton's still out as well. Evans, it's an ongoing thing, this. Even Rodgers said on Thursday that his recovery's gone a little bit slower than we would have hoped, and didn't guarantee he'd be back for this one either. He is in training, but then he suggested that he could get a run out against Newport next Tuesday instead, which is the League Cup. So wouldn't be surprised to see him not risked for this one with those niggling calf problems. But apart from that, I think that's it.
Yep, excellent. It was set pieces in which Lampard was questioned on.
Yeah.
They have conceded the most goal attempts from set pieces, Everton.
I think that's what the reporter was trying to reference, and he's getting mixed up with goals.
Yeah, because they definitely haven't conceded the most goals from set pieces, but they're right at the top in terms of chances. They'll definitely concede a set piece now to Leicester. Now that's happening.
Yeah.
You just know it. Chelsea next. Big game this. They're at home to Arsenal. Let's start with Chelsea, and it's another problem for an English fullback.
Yeah, dropping like flies at the moment. I think we might see Dan Burn in the World Cup squad at this rate. Chilwell came off right at the end of that Champions League game in midweek. He must be running over that in his head. If he just, a couple of minutes' time, would have been fine. But it looks bad. Even Potter saying the day doesn't look very positive. He's having a scan, I think, either today or tomorrow. And they'll obviously await the results of that. He'll miss the Arsenal game for sure. But this could put an end to his World Cup dreams. Kepa's out as well. He's out until after the World Cup, certainly domestically. I'm not sure if he'll be back for Spain. He's got a minor-ish foot issue, but it's enough to rule him out of game weeks 15 and 16. So Kepa and Chilwell out alongside the ones we already knew about, Kante, Fofana and James. So that's a lot of defensive-minded assets there who they're down for this Arsenal game. And the other one is Chukwuemeka as well, who's obviously a youngster, had some game time, but not a lot. He's got a hamstring issue as well, so he's out. Yep. Kovacic is fine, by the way. He wasn't missed in midweek with a calf problem, but he's trained since, and he should be all right.
And it's better news for Arsenal. In terms of the popular Saka, he was back on the bench.
He was, yeah, and not just him either, but Zinchenko as well, and El Neni started, so they've got a lot of players back. So Smith Rowe is the only one who's definitely out. Matt Turner was the only other player who wasn't involved in team training. He's the backup goalkeeper. I'm not really worried about him. There was a fresh concern last night, and that was Tomiyasu. He limped off with a muscle injury late on. Arteta, so he was interviewed straight after the game. Obviously, couldn't have given us much information, even if he wanted to, which he invariably doesn't want us to give us information. But he is going to be assessed. I don't think we'll get anything more from Arteta. We'll get embargoed quotes probably from the press conference, but again, they'll have been from last night. So I doubt we'll get anything new. But what is it, 60, 63 hours, something like that, between the Europa League and the Chelsea game, which is a midday kick-off on Sunday. And that's a tall order for Tomiyasu to recover from a muscle problem in that time. So, yeah, maybe Tierney, who himself got a knock last night, but he says he's fine. Tierney probably the favourite, given that Zinchenko was only just back. I think he's only had about 3 or 4 days of training and didn't get onto the pitch last night. So you would think Tierney's, just the favourite for that left-back spot, providing he hasn't got a fitness issue of his own.
Yep, excellent. We are just over halfway through. If you would just give us a like on the stream, that would be great. Only 67 likes with 1,000 people watching. Come on, guys. Smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel as well. And let's carry on powering through. Villa next. Unai Emery in the hot seat now, finally.
He is, yeah. I watched his press comments, but it was, as these tend to be, the opening press comments of a manager, completely lacking in team news. Aston Villa sometimes send us I say us, not me personally, but send a medical bulletin out on Twitter in a graphic form telling you who's out and who's in. I don't think they've done that yet. Perhaps Emery's told them to shut that down, giving away too much information. Nothing yet. I'll keep tabs on Villa because they will have an embargoed section later on tonight, so we might get some team news belatedly, but we don't know anything. Carlos is definitely out. We think Kamara too. Kamara's back in training, but has been doing, I think, non-contact stuff. Augustinsson, he should be near a return based on that original 3-week prognosis. And Martinez was the key one. He came off last weekend with a head injury, but what was that? Sunday. So Sunday to Sunday, concussion protocol should be served by the time we get to the Man United game. So we're expecting him to be back between the posts.
Yep. And United have got a few doubts, and
they have
the suspension to Fernandes as well.
That's right. Yeah. He was one of the many to pick up their 5th yellow card last weekend, so he's out with this one. Varane, of course, is out injured, and then there's a trio of yellow flagged attacking assets, which makes the lineup a bit difficult to predict. So we think maybe Fred comes in for Fernandes, and then Eriksen goes a bit further forward. So that's straightforward enough. But it's Anthony, Sancho, and Martial all yellow flagged. Sancho was ill, so you'd think he'd had the better chance of a recovery. Anthony's got this mysterious problem that we don't quite know about. It happened to have coincided with him being taken off at half time after that ridiculous.
A bit of dizziness, maybe?
Yeah, bit of vertigo. Yeah, we don't know what's wrong with him, but he wasn't training, I don't think. Or he was doing individual training when everyone else was playing against Sociedad. Martial has been back in training as well, but he didn't travel to Spain. And then Ten Hag, I think this was from last night, but it's just been released this afternoon. He says it's difficult to say in this moment which of those 3 is going to be available. I have to talk with the medical and performance team as they did a program in Manchester. So, we're in the dark as to those 3, and it is an away game, but it is on Sunday. So sometimes you get the Manchester Evening News reporting on who's travelled down to wherever the away game's at on the coach or by plane, but we won't get that because it's a Sunday game, and that'll be travelling down on Saturday night.
Yeah, but Rashford's all right. I mean, he's the one everyone's buying.
Seems to be, yeah, seems to be. Ronaldo played last night through the middle, and obviously would have to do that again if Martial and Anthony and Sancho are all out. I think was Rashford rested last night because Garnacho started, and let me just check the lineup.
I think
he was rested.
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't think.
He came on for the last half an hour. And Elanga was benched as well, which makes me think Elanga's going to perhaps start in lieu of maybe Anthony, because you think Elanga would have started that Europa League game for minutes, but maybe he's been preserved for the weekend because Ten Hag knows that Anthony's a bit of a doubt.
Yep, great. Next, Southampton versus Newcastle. Obviously, they're attracting a lot of interest, but let's start with the home side. Let's start with Southampton.
Yep. Walker Peters, Livramento out, so that's both right backs yet again. Bella Kotchap and Lavia both back in contention, both been in training. Lavia did pick up a minor knee issue on his return, but Hassanal said he expects him to, says it's quite likely he'll be involved in the squad. So that's 2 players back. Stuart Armstrong should be fine as well. He came off last weekend. Ralph said he was struggling a little bit still, but again, should be fine. And I think that's it.
Yep. And Newcastle, this is very reminiscent of when Harry Kane got pictured at Christmas with a red nose. Remember that?
Yes.
The
less you know as a fantasy manager, the more beneficial it is.
Yeah.
Because if Callum Wilson hadn't appeared on a podcast in midweek, he wouldn't be flagged, and B, owners and prospective owners wouldn't be fretting about his minutes this weekend. So he's got a cold. Boo-hoo. He revealed this on a podcast in midweek, and then a reporter followed that up with Eddie Howe this morning, and Howe seemed a little bit taken aback. I think that someone knew this information. He said he thinks he's okay. He's had a little cold. He said, and then he went on to say, it's funny how everything gets around, especially when you're doing a podcast. I think it was a little barbed comment at Wilson there. But he said, fingers crossed he'll be okay. He was pictured in training. I did see training ground images. This was Wednesday, the Newcastle Gallery. And I think that was the day the podcast came out. So if he's training then, we assume he's going to be all right. But he is now flagged, in case you're wondering why. Elsewhere, Fabian Schär should be fine. As things stand, according to how he's okay. He had hamstring tightness last weekend, which seems all right. Joe Linton's out, yellow card accumulation again. And so too are Dummett, Isaac, Emil Kraft and Matt Ritchie. They're all in the injury list. Darlow's back in training, but very much back up to Pope.
Excellent. West Ham next. They're at home to Crystal Palace. Start with West Ham.
Yep. Sort of thin on team news, but we did get a pretty comprehensive update on Paqueta, who's back probably in the squad this weekend. He's been in training. I think he's been out for around about 2 or 3 weeks, so not too long, with a shoulder issue. So he should be involved this weekend. It's in some capacity anyway. No word on Cornier and no word on Fabianski. They were both... Cornier's been out for a while and had a setback. Fabianski came off last weekend, I think after jarring his knee. Wasn't involved in Europe last night, but then again, barely any of the seniors were involved for West Ham last night. I think Moyes previously said it was as a precaution because he jarred his knee, but we haven't had anything new from Moyes and Fabianski. Areola played in the dead rubber last night in the Conference League. I'll keep my eyes peeled on Twitter and beyond. Maybe ex-West Ham employee can provide us with something, but sadly can't bring you anything new on Fabianski.
Made history, I believe. West Ham won all their Europa Conference League groups. I mean, it's only been going for 2 years, isn't it? But still.
Yeah. A long line of teams have come through the Conference League. Yeah, all 6 games, as I said there. So they really did have the bare bones out last night. There was only really Lanzini and Fornells and Downs. They've mostly been back up the season. They were the only sort of seniors who were playing, and it was a lot of rookies and returnees like Aguerd as well, who's back, and they still won.
Yep, good going. Palace, they're playing. Nathan Ferguson, 45 minutes. Woo!
He did. Yeah, he got game time with the academy team, so nearing a return, just in time for the World Cup break.
Will he feature this season for the senior team? What do you reckon? I hope so.
He reminds me of that fella who, I don't know if you watch Monty Python, but he takes ages from running out to the sea and then just gets to the show and says it's. Ferguson running out of time for his debut. Richards and MacArthur, we think, are still out, but they're not really the headline act here, and that because it's the 2 first-team regulars, and that's Edouard and Decore. Edouard, of course, who might be in some FPL squads because he's one of the cheapest starting forwards, certainly if you're playing 3-5-2. They're both going to be assessed in training. Edouard sounds not very serious. I think he came off last weekend, just limped off. It didn't seem to be too serious, but he's trained, and he'll train again tomorrow, and then Vieira's going to see how he comes through that. Same with Decore, but his first training session was today, so he's obviously a little bit behind. He was initially suspended for, I think it was Gameweek 13, missed out Gameweek 14 because of injury, and now has just started training as of Friday. They are playing on, I think, Sunday, so it gives them an extra day of recovery. But yeah, those two will be assessed by Vieira tomorrow in the finance session, and then a late call will be made on those two.
Excellent. And the final game, big game, Spurs versus Liverpool. I mean, Spurs, talk about injuries across their front line. Who the hell are they going to play this week?
Yeah, well, even Lucas Moura, who's one of the last men standing, he's barely standing because he's got pain in his tendon. So yeah, just to summarise from the top, Richarlison's still out. Son has joined him in midweek. He's now having surgery on a facial injury picked up. I'm not sure if that'll affect his World Cup yet. Kulusevski is back in training, but he's only partly trained today. So that's asking a lot for him to be available for Sunday. So that's 3 of the 5 frontline options out or unlikely to start, you'd think, with Kulusevski. They've also got Brian Hill as well, who is just not trusted really by Conte, certainly domestically. So that leaves, Lucas with Kane. Now, as I said, Lucas is playing through the pain barrier. Conte said in his presser today his pain was really bad in training today and was worried about it, but he's asked him to try and be available because we need him. So and I think Lucas said during the week he's willing to play through pain for Spurs at the moment. So they'll probably inject him with something and then send him out there. Just get through these last 2 weeks, and then obviously beyond that, he might need some kind of corrective action because it is a chronic thing with his tendons. So that's the forward line injuries addressed. There's more to come though. Romero's out, so he's first choice right-sided centre half. He's out of this one. Bentancur should be all right. He's much better. I think he had a muscular problem in midweek, just a minor thing, bit of discomfort towards the end of the game, but he's trained today and Conte says he's much better. So you would think that points to a 3-5-2 with Lucas and Kane up top. Could be 3-4-3. Could play Perisic up with those two. And then have Sessegnon and one of Doherty or Emerson on the right. But yeah, not many options for Spurs going into this game.
Poor Brian Hill. He did get 6 minutes against Bournemouth.
He did, and he looked all right. He's looked all right when he's come on. And there are some Spurs fans clamouring for him to start, but we've seen before with Conte, he's quite stubborn with certain players. He will resist, like he was with Doherty at the start of the season. Basuma as well, he said, was behind Højbjerg and Bentancur. He's definitely getting closer, but I think this isn't the game to throw him in against Liverpool. Maybe a Carabao Cup tie next week would be all he's seen, I think. Yeah.
And Kane's on 4 bookings as well, so if they
can't lose
him.
Yeah. This is the kind of game you could imagine being quite a cauldron atmosphere as well, and players getting wound up.
Who was it? Did you remember Mourinho was talking about a strike? I think, or maybe it was Balotelli or someone. He was saying, he was like, you can't get booked. If you're booked and you miss the next game, we need you. We haven't got any other strikers. Yeah. Apparently Balotelli got booked in like the first 2 minutes of coming on or something. I think it was Balotelli.
Well, yeah, I think Kane's probably got a bit more of a level head than Mario.
You'd hope so. Liverpool, final team out for 20. What have you got from them?
Yes, it's not very sort of headline grabbing news. This Milner's going to be out because of concussion. Henderson's back. He wasn't rested midweek, but apart from that, it's nothing we didn't already know. So Jota, Diaz, Arthur all out. I don't think Matip's ready to come back yet. Keita's in training but short of match fitness. So I guess it's which permutation of players and which formation he goes with probably more to the point, because he's been chopping and changing. We've seen 4-4-2s, we've seen a diamond. We saw the 4-3-3 back in midweek against Napoli. So it could be that again, because he did say after that Napoli game that the 4-3-3, we tend to defend better in this formation. Not always, but I wonder if he was looking ahead to this game when playing that 4-3-3, which would mean either Darwin starting on the left, or one of Darwin and Firmino not starting, and someone like Jones or Carvalho playing on the left. But Darwin certainly laid down a marker in midweek when he came on and scored, and I think did he assist the other one as well? So I think he may start.
I still can't work out what's going on there. I don't know how they can put that performance in against Leeds and then play one of the best teams in Europe and put in a comfortable 2-0 win and beat City a few weeks ago and then lose to Forest. It's bizarre.
It is. I think Klopp was asked about that this morning as well, and so many times this season, reporters have asked him, "Is this the starting point now? Does your season kick start from here after a good result against a Man City or Napoli?" And it just hasn't transpired. They are getting players back from injury. Canate is back as well, which I think made a difference in midweek at centre half, but. They're not themselves either individually or collectively. And there was quite a telling quote from Alexander-Arnold in midweek where he said they're basically playing for the World Cup break now. They're just trying to get through to that break and then just regather themselves. And a lot of them are going away into national duty, but he admitted that a lot of the players were way below par this season.
Wow. Well, there you go. Amazing stuff, Neil. That's all the matches and all the teams covered. Thanks, as always, for all your hard work listening to all the press conferences and broken streams and you want you all coming in and giving excellent commentary as well. It's great. One more of these before the World Cup. The UEFA League game has just kicked off as well, so check that out. We'll be supporting that, of course, at Scout along with Fan Team and Sky. That's it from us. We'll see you again next week.
Thanks for watching, everybody. And good luck with your game weeks.